Hey, what's this?
What a pretty note card. A yellow star on a deep background. It must have fallen out of Mrs. Lee's purse.
I have everything I need, but I still feel empty.
What's happening?
I'm Miss Jean. Join me on a trip to Discovery Mountain, where the air is clear enough to hear your imagination, and where every day is an exercise in faith. Join me for today's expedition in Discovery Mountain. Last week's episode ended with a bang! The Peabodys were outside Mountain Meadows praying for the families there when Janet and her mother came out to retrieve their dog Ruby's favorite yellow ball. Pastor Peabody called it a divine appointment. As they were talking, they thought they saw Mrs. Lee's car drive past. And then, well, let's join everyone in today's episode called Breaking Barriers.
Mrs. Lee!
Mrs. Lee, are you all right?
What happened?
When I drove onto that little bridge, it was icy, and my car started sliding.
You crashed right into the wall.
Here, let me help you out.
Take it easy. Are you hurt?
Well, I'm embarrassed, but otherwise, I think I'm fine.
Well, the wall sure isn't fine, and your bumper's pretty bad too.
Harold, don't make Mrs. Lee feel worse than she already does.
Harold's right. My car is dented, but a whole section of the wall is ruined.
That wall is an eyesore. Too bad you didn't knock the whole thing down.
How much will it cost to repair?
You can worry about that later. Right now, we need to thank God you didn't get injured.
Judging from the hole you made in that wall, it's a miracle you're not hurt.
How could there be so much damage when I wasn't even going that fast?
What are you doing here anyway, Mrs. Lee?
Coming to see you.
Me?
It's freezing out here, everyone. Let's go to my house where it's warm. It's just around the corner.
Amanda, you go to the Beckmans. I'll call the tow truck.
Thank you, Pastor. I'll just get my purse out of the car.
I'll let you know when the truck's ready to take you back to Discovery Mountain.
Let's go, Mrs. Lee. I think we could all use a hot cup of tea.
That sounds wonderful.
Harold, I'll get our car warming and we can wait in there.
Hey, what's this?
What a pretty note card. A yellow star on a deep background. It must have fallen out of Mrs. Lee's purse.
It looks kind of familiar.
Oh?
Yeah, Janet was painting something similar today on a Christmas ornament.
Well, you can give it back to Mrs. Lee tomorrow. Now, let's get in the car and get the heater going.
Here you go. Freshly brewed cranberry spice tea.
A perfect flavor for the holidays. Thank you.
Mrs. Lee, you said you were coming to see me. Am I in trouble?
Not at all, Janet. Though I am a little concerned about something.
What's that?
Has Janet told you about our Christmas art project? I hate to give away the surprise, but the kids are making ornaments for their parents.
Oh, how lovely.
There's just one problem.
My baby picture.
Janet keeps forgetting to bring hers to school, and I wondered if there was a reason.
Well, we don't have any baby pictures of her. The orphanage never took any. Janet, why didn't you explain it to Mrs. Lee?
If the kids find out I don't have any baby pictures because I was in an orphanage, they'll tease me. Just like at my old school. They'll pick on me for being different.
I think you're misjudging your classmates. Let me show you a picture.
Who is this?
That's Dinesh. He's 8 years old, and he lives at Sunrise Home, an orphanage in India. Everyone in my class loves Dinesh.
They do?
Yes, your classmates helped to sponsor him. It's like he's part of our class, even though he's 8,000 miles away.
When Janet told you about her project, you said orphanages were important to you too. Now I know why. Because of Dinesh.
Yes. So you see, your classmates would never tease you about coming from an orphanage.
You really think so?
I know so.
Thank you for telling us about Sunrise Home, Mrs. Lee. Maybe this will help Janet trust her classmates a little more.
Mom thinks I haven't given them a chance to be friends.
You won't let anyone get close to you. It's like you've put up a wall because you're afraid of being hurt.
But how do I stop being afraid so I can take the wall down?
I'll help you. That's one wall I'd be happy to smash. I can't thank you enough for giving me a ride this morning, Natasha. I have no idea how long my car will be in the shop or how I'll pay for the repairs.
Won't your insurance cover the cost?
I'm not sure. I left a message with my insurance agent, but she hasn't gotten back to me yet.
Well, I'm happy to be your chauffeur as long as you need. I'm just glad you weren't hurt.
Natasha, I was so certain God wanted me to pay for Sunrise Home's well, but if I'd gotten new tires instead, the accident would never have happened.
You obey God, Amanda, and that's always the right thing to do.
But I'm so worried about the cost and whether I'll get a citation, or worse yet, get sued.
Get sued?
For damaging the Mountain Meadows wall. It was actually hurt much worse than my car.
You just have to keep trusting God, Amanda. Remember Romans 8:28?
Yes, it's one of my favorite verses. We know that all things work together for good for those who love God and are the called according to his purpose.
God can bring good out of a smashed wall and a dented car.
I needed that reminder, Natasha. I have no idea how I'm going to pay for the repairs to my car or the Mountain Meadows wall, but I'm going to trust that God has a plan.
Mrs. Lee! Mrs. Lee!
Here come Gracie and Harold. We can talk more when I drive you home this afternoon.
Thanks again, Natasha, for everything.
Mrs. Lee, Harold just told me about your accident.
That wall was so smashed, it's a miracle you're alive.
Well, that's a bit of an exaggeration, Harold, but God certainly kept me safe.
I found this on the ground last night, Mrs. Lee. You must have dropped it.
Oh, that's one of Janet's beautiful note cards.
Janet paints note cards too?
Yes, she takes pictures of her paintings and turns them into note cards. She's been trying to sell them to raise money for her orphanage. Oh dear.
What's wrong?
I wasn't supposed to tell anyone.
Why not?
Janet wants to buy school supplies for the children at the orphanage she came from. So she planned to raise the money by selling her note cards to all her new neighbors.
What a wonderful idea.
Well, then she found out it's against the rules to sell anything at Mountain Meadows.
What's she going to do now?
She doesn't know, but the project is so important to her, she asked her parents not to give her anything for Christmas and to use the money for the orphanage kids instead.
She's giving up her Christmas presents?
Why didn't she want to tell us about her project?
She thought her classmates would tease her if they knew she used to live in an orphanage.
We would never do that.
That's exactly what I told her last night.
Mrs. Lee, I have an idea.
You do?
What idea, Harold?
Let's all meet at the cafe after school, and I'll tell you then.
I wonder what Harold's idea is. Do you think it has something to do with Janet's special project? We'll learn more later in the story. Right now, we're going to take a short break.
Hi, producer Steve here. Would you like to hear what's coming up each week in Discovery Mountain and the Discovery Mountain Club? Sign up for our weekly e-newsletter. Visit discoverymountain.com/newsletter.
Hi everyone, Ms. Jean here. Has the daily news cycle got you down this holiday season? Well, the good news is that Jesus came to earth so that we could enjoy a better life with him. No matter what the headlines say, we can have peace on earth this Christmas and throughout the year. Now, did you know that our parent ministry, The Voice of Prophecy, created a delightful 1-hour Christmas special called Peace on Earth? The special was featured on ABC television, and it includes an inspirational message from Sean Boonstra and beautiful music from the award-winning Adventist Children's Chorus and the King's Heralds. This Peace on Earth program is available on DVD, and it would make an uplifting addition to your holiday traditions. You can find the DVD online at vop.com/store. That's VOP.com/store. O-P as in voice of prophecy. So from all of us at Discovery Mountain, we wish you peace this holiday season.
Class, your ornaments are really coming along. There are some very talented artists in this room.
Mrs. Lee,
Yes, Janet,
I finished my ornament.
it's beautiful. A yellow 5-pointed star on a blue background, just like the one on your note card.
It's the star on the flag of Ethiopia, but I thought it made a perfect Star of Bethlehem, too.
Indeed, it does.
Turn it over, Mrs. Lee.
Did you paint a different scene on the other side since you don't have a baby picture to put on it?
Look and see.
Janet, what an adorable baby picture. But you said you didn't have any baby pictures.
I don't.
But this is definitely a picture of you. I recognize your lovely dark eyes and sweet smile.
After you left last night, Dad found a face aging software program that lets you see what you look like when you're old. But it works in reverse, too.
You mean this picture wasn't taken when you were a baby?
No, we used a picture of me when I was 4, then de-aged it.
Your dad really is a computer genius.
Sorry I'm late, Mrs. Lee. I stopped at Trekker's to check on my super special order for tomorrow's super special Jericho finale.
Oh, it's all right, Jake. The kids have been working hard on their Christmas ornaments, and I lost track of time, too. All right, students, set your ornaments aside and get ready to listen to Chaplain Jake.
Well, kids, you ready to get back to Jericho?
Chaplain Jake, are you sure you don't want to tell us a Christmas story instead?
No, we want to hear the end of the Jericho story.
Looks like you're outvoted, Harold. Now, who remembers where we left off?
The Israelites marched around Jericho, then went back to their camp.
They didn't attack or lay siege, whatever that means.
Well, it means they did not surround Jericho and cut off its supplies until the people got hungry enough that they would have surrendered.
But why did they just march around the city?
Because that's what God told them to do.
But it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'm sure the soldiers, or at least some of them, thought the same thing, but as you'll see, they obeyed anyway.
Enosh, I heard the ram's horn blow. It's time to get in formation.
Salmon, for 6 days now we've marched around Jericho, then returned to camp. We must look like fools to the people in the city.
But today will be different. Today our leader Joshua says we march 7 times. Remember?
Yes, of course. And when the priests blow a long blast of the ram's horn, we're to give a great shout.
And then the city shall be ours. God has promised it.
The city is to be utterly destroyed.
Yes, except Rahab the innkeeper, whom we swore to protect, and all who are with her.
Yes, but only if she followed our instructions to put the red cord in the window and remain in her house.
Let us hope her faith is strong enough to lead her to obedience.
Aunt Rahab, please, may I go out?
Absolutely not.
But every day people go up on the walls to watch the Israelites' strange parade.
Let the child go, Rahab. You've kept us here all cooped up in your house for 6 days now.
I told you what the spies said. Only those inside my house will be saved. Would you risk Talia's life?
Stay here, Talia. It's too late anyway. The procession is ending and they'll return to their camp now, just like the last 6 days.
No, Grandfather, they're circling the city again. The priests with the golden box are marching past for the second time.
Why are they not going back?
The cord, Talia. Is the cord still there?
Yes, Aunt Rahab.
As long as they see the cord, we have nothing to fear. They swore before their God they would show mercy to me and my family, and they will keep their promise.
For 6 days, the Israelites had marched around the city once. Then they returned to camp. But on day 7, they marched around Jericho 7 times. Then they stopped, and for a moment, it was deadly quiet.
I don't like this, Aunt Rahab. It's so quiet.
I hear something. A trumpet.
What's happening?
It's an earthquake.
Father? Talia? Is everyone all right?
We're all alive. And your house is still standing. It's a miracle.
What do we do now, Aunt Rahab?
Rahab, open the door.
The spies! They're here! Salmon, Enosh, you came back.
We gave you our word.
And you obeyed and put the red cord out your window.
The red cord saved us.
No, your faith saved you. The red cord was just a sign. Now come out, all of you.
The wall. It's gone.
All except the section Aunt Rahab's house is attached to.
Hurry! Everything in the city is to be destroyed and burned.
What will become of my family and me?
Do not fear, Rahab. God has rewarded your faithfulness. Our leader, Joshua, is giving you a place outside the camp of Israel.
That was an amazing story, Chaplain Jake.
It'd be even more amazing if it was a Christmas story. Like maybe he has some wise men or something.
Sorry, Harold, there were no wise men in Jericho. Now, kids, Chaplain Jake's leaving, and Archaeologist Jake is going to take you through the rest of the story. Follow me.
Follow you where?
Chaplain Jake, why did you bring us out to the soccer field?
That's Archaeologist Jake to you, Gracie. I brought you here to demonstrate how archaeology can strengthen your faith in the story of Jericho.
Is that what that stack of bricks is for?
Yes, indeedy, you betcha. Joshua 6:20 says that when the Israelites shouted, the walls of Jericho fell down flat.
Then the Israelites ran straight up into the city.
Excavations at Jericho show that the walls fell straight down on themselves. And the broken bricks, well, they piled up and formed sort of a ramp like this.
Wow! Look at that! The bricks formed a ramp, just like the Bible said.
But Archaeologist Jake, shouting wouldn't make a wall fall down. Wasn't it probably an earthquake?
Well, even if it was an earthquake, Janet, it still was a miracle that it happened at just the right moment.
I guess you're right.
What else does archaeology say about the story?
The Bible says they burned the city after the walls fell.
They were also told not to take anything for themselves.
Right. Archaeologists found a really thick layer of ash. Now that was evidence for the city being destroyed by fire. And they also found storage jars full of burned grain.
Why is that important?
Because invading armies would normally take all the grain they found for their own use.
So that proves the Bible was right. The Israelites didn't take anything.
Then archaeologists discovered the most amazing fact of all. They discovered the walls of Jericho collapsed.
You told us that already.
Except for one small section on the north side of the city.
Rahab's house?
Archaeological evidence matches the Bible story in every way, Janet. You can always trust what God's word says.
Chaplain Jake is right. You can always trust what the Bible says. While Janet's faith was being strengthened by what she was learning about archaeology and the Bible, her mother's faith was also being strengthened. We'll find out how after this break.
Hi, Kate Browning here. I play Kylie on Discovery Mountain. Take an adventure with your friends in Discovery Mountain in the book Mission Forgiveness. In this interactive faith adventure, you decide what happens next. Find Mission Forgiveness at discoverymountain.com/store.
Hey, it's Sean Boonstra, Speaker Director of The Voice of Prophecy. Has Discovery Mountain been an encouragement to the children in your life? Weekly Discovery Mountain episodes are made possible through the generosity of our supporters. Would you like to join us as a supporter? Call us at 1-877-566-7365.
Pastor Peabody? I hope I'm not disturbing you. I was just passing by the church.
Oh, you're not disturbing me at all, Mrs. Beckman. What can I do for you?
Well, for one thing, you can stop calling me Mrs. Beckman. It's Amy.
All right, Amy. What brings you here today?
I've been thinking about what you said last night.
About our meeting being a divine appointment?
You said God knows me and knows I'm searching for something.
Well, you are searching for something, aren't you?
Yes. I have everything I need, but I still feel empty.
Well, God knows you feel empty, Amy. He brought you to Discovery Mountain to give you a chance to get to know him, hoping you'd invite him to fill the emptiness in your life.
But why would God bother with someone like me? I barely know anything about him.
Well, Chaplain Jake is teaching our kids about the story of Jericho, isn't he?
Yes, it's one reason Janet and I have begun to ask serious questions about God.
How much do you think Rahab knew about the God of the Israelites?
As little as I do?
Well, Rahab was searching for something, just like you. And, just like you, God saw her and arranged a divine appointment.
You think God arranged for her to meet the two spies?
Have you thought about why God impressed Joshua to send spies to Jericho?
To see how many soldiers they had? Or how strong the walls were?
Why would those things matter? They never fought Jericho's army or had to break down the walls. And they didn't need to check the city's supplies to see how long they could survive a siege because they never laid siege to Jericho.
So why were the spies sent?
God sent those spies to rescue the one person in Jericho who knew her life was empty, who knew she was lost, the one person who wanted to know him.
Why would he go to all that trouble for one person?
Because he loved Rahab. God knew she was searching for him, so he made sure she found him. He's anxious to rescue anyone who wants to know him.
Even me?
Yes, Amy. The only question now is, are you willing to be rescued?
Look, Mom, there's a parking space right in front of the cafe.
Lucky for us.
I don't think it's luck, Mom. I think Jesus saved us a spot because he likes my plan.
I suppose that's possible, Harold. If God could bring down the walls of Jericho, he could certainly save us a prime parking spot.
Good, Gracie's already here. I can see her through the window.
Hi, Michelle. It smells wonderful in here, as usual.
Thanks, Mabel. I have a fresh batch of maple pumpkin bread ready to be sampled.
Sign me up.
Do you know anything about this mysterious scheme our kids have cooked up?
I haven't been cooking anything, Mom. Harold's the one with all the ideas.
All right, Harold, let's hear it.
As soon as Mrs. Lee gets here, my plan won't work without her.
Shall we sample some maple pumpkin bread while we wait?
Yes!
That's the best idea I've heard all day.
Wait till you hear mine. It's even better.
Better than my mom's maple pumpkin bread?
Whoa!
Here comes your teacher, Harold.
Oh, sorry to keep you all waiting. Since my car's in the shop, I had to walk over.
Why didn't I think of that, Amanda? You could have ridden with us.
Oh, don't worry about it, Mabel. The school's only a few blocks from here.
You deserve a cup of hot tea after being out in the cold.
And a piece of Michelle's maple pumpkin bread.
Sounds perfect.
Well, Harold, don't keep us waiting any longer. What's this big idea of yours? What?
Maybe we should let Harold finish his snack before he tries to talk.
When Harold had finished the second slice of maple pumpkin bread, he finally began to explain his plan and how everyone there could help. When he finished, he looked around at the little group expectantly.
Well, do you think it'll work?
I think it's a wonderful plan, Harold. But first, we need to ask Miss Michelle if she's willing to be involved. She'd have to do most of the work.
Please, Mom, you'll do it, won't you?
Of course I will, if you and Brianna help me get everything ready.
It's a deal. Thanks, Mrs. Harris.
I'll call Amy and have her bring us everything we need.
And I'll get to work on advertising. I'll design a poster to put up at church and an eye-catching sign for here in the cafe.
Well, team, now that that's settled, who's ready for more maple pumpkin bread?
Yeah!
Yes, please.
Director Doug, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Well, I'm not sure what you're thinking, but I'm thinking I'd like a slice of Miss Michelle's maple pumpkin bread.
That does sound good. But I was thinking that Harold might be getting ready to exercise his faith by helping his friend Janet raise money for the orphanage that she came from.
But Harold and Janet aren't exactly friends.
No, but think of it like this. Rahab and the Israelite spies were enemies, but God turned them into allies. Harold and Janet, well, they aren't enemies. Harold just didn't make a very good first impression.
Or a good second or third impression either.
Yeah, but God can turn a rocky start into something good.
Like the Bible verse Natasha reminded Mrs. Lee about, Romans 8:28, we know that all things work together for good for those who love God.
And when Rahab exercised her faith and obeyed everything the spies told her to do, God worked everything out for her good. When Pastor Peabody obeyed what God was telling him to do and kept going back to Mountain Meadows, God worked everything out with a divine appointment with Amy Beckman. So I know God can bring good out of Harold and Janet's misunderstandings.
Well, Mrs. Lee obeyed God and she ended up with a smashed car and wall and no way to pay for the repairs.
Yeah, but you said yourself we don't always understand why things happen, at least not at first. Mrs. Lee's story isn't done yet. We may not always understand God's plan for us, but if we exercise our faith, we can trust that He always has a plan.
Well, that he does. We'll find out what happens next time in our last episode of this story series. See you then.
I'm Miss Jean, and you've been listening to Discovery Mountain, where the air is clear enough to hear your imagination, and where every day is an exercise in faith. To listen to other episodes and to send us a message, visit us at discoverymountain.com or write to us at Discovery Mountain, P.O. Box 999, Loveland, Colorado, 80539. And in Canada, write to Box 2127, Oshawa, Ontario, L1H7V4. This is a production of The Voice of Prophecy. Join us again next time here at Discovery Mountain. Breaking Barriers was written by Janice Nelson, produced by Steve Phillips, and post-produced in Ontario, Canada by Douglas Bruce and Danny Columbi. Recorded in Loveland, Colorado at the Voice of Prophecy Studios and in Ontario and California.